Hey guys, I'm Fancy,
And I'm Brande.
and this is Murder by Design. And tonight we are joined by, one of our very favorite guests, Sheryl McCollum from the Cold Case Research Institute and the Emmy Award winning McCollum now.
Woohoo!
I am
Isn't that
so proud of
nuts?
you. Yes,
Oh, it's
so they
crazy.
so she
Crazy.
she co-hosts a show in Atlanta called CSI Atlanta with Miss Karen Greer, and Karen was supposed to join us tonight, but happened to have a work thing going on, so she will not be with us tonight. But I'm so excited to have you guys, and I tell us about winning the Emmy first because that's pretty big. I think that's a big deal. I want to give you a chance
Well,
to kind of talk about that.
it, it was crazy. When we first started the whole thing, Karen and I just wanted to do the right showcase of these cases and
Mhm,
hopefully push some so that we could help law enforcement and the families. That was
mhm,
literally our only recipe. Well,
mhm.
about halfway through, she says, "Hey, just want to let you know we've been nominated for an Emmy," which in my world kind of made me laugh because the only Emmys I know anything about are daytime Emmys where Jennifer Aniston and the folks from Friends and whatnot. So I'm like,
Soap,
what are
your
you
favorite
talking
soap
about?
opera, pepper soap opera.
Exactly, yeah. And she was funny. She was like, no, no, no. I think we stand a real shot. And so because of COVID, we couldn't do a live Emmy presentation like
Keep
they
going.
normally did. It was going to be all virtual.
Mhm,
But what we did do is we got a suite at the Georgian Terrace, which is a spectacular hotel in downtown Atlanta, right across from the Fox Theater. And
mhm,
Karen and I and everybody from CSI Atlanta was there. And of course, my husband and children and my sisters. And it was just
mhm.
a fabulous night, and we celebrated it. To me,
Yeah.
it
I
was
bet.
literally one of those things. Being nominated was enough
Mhm.
because, again, in my world, I'm a crime scene investigator. We don't get nominated for Emmys, you know. And the chief of police
Yeah.
was really, cool about it. He was like, "No, no, no, you need to put it on our social media, and we need to talk about it, and we all think you're
Yeah.
going to win. Great show, a lot of
Mhm,
support, a lot of just really
mhm,
kind stuff." And then all the people that had been on CSI Atlanta, and many of them
mhm,
but you're
mhm.
talking about Detective Christine Menina and
Right.
Dr. Laura Petler,
Mhm,
and I mean I can't even name everybody, Holly Hughes, and
mhm.
I mean just anybody you can think of that you have seen me tag or post stuff
Right.
about. Judge Ashley
David.
Wilcox. I mean, it just goes on and on and
Right.
on. They not
Right.
only came and did episodes with us, but they helped us.
Mhm.
Joe Scott Morgan and Karen
Right. Stephen
Smith.
David
Karen Smith
Lampley and yeah. Mhm,
awesome. That with
mhm,
COVID, of course, she couldn't come to Atlanta, but she was
mhm,
so available to me on the phone, and that's something
mhm.
that I want people to know because I did want this to be right, and I wanted it to be something that other crime scene people were, proud of. I didn't want to,
Right.
get out there and say something that wasn't accurate or perfect, the
Mhm,
best I could.
mhm,
So having her available to me, and if I said, "Hey, this is the case I got. This is what I think I'm going to suggest. What do you think?" I mean, just
mhm.
for the people listening to me, you want to talk about working with a net. Good Lord.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, we feel
so
the same way.
a
We're
lot of
so
help
blessed to
advice.
have each one of you on.
Well, I'm telling you, it was a spectacular thing, and y'all know because y'all are living it too. So when the
Mhm,
night happened, all of us were in this gigantic suite, and we were just having a ball. And then came time for our thing, and I
mhm,
was really just super proud of it. I was like, "Hey, you've been nominated," and that alone changes, how you're introduced when you do a speech
mhm.
from now on. The Emmy nominated is fabulous, right?
Right, right.
And honey, when they said CSI Atlanta, that room erupted. I'm sure
Wow.
security was called. We had to move the party up on the roof. We just had,
Oh, that's
a
wonderful
spectacular
though.
time. And,
Mhm.
and I told everybody in my acceptance speech that I was going to treat my Emmy like the Stanley Cup, and every single person is going to get it for a weekend that was part of it. And so far, that that Emmy has had a blast. It's been with Detective Christine Menina. It's been with Dwayne Thompson. It's been with some other folks. I don't know if they want me to name them because I'm not sure what happened to the Emmy their weekend, but it was awesome. I'm sure. So,
I will gladly take it any weekend. I will gladly
I'm
take it
telling
and
you.
take good care of her.
Listen, my son said you should get the Emmy its own Twitter page and let people know like where it's going.
Where
And
it's
then, of
going and
course,
what it's done. And
yeah. And then, of course, my
ah,
daughter Caroline, she's like, you got to get some insurance on that thing.
yeah,
People are
right.
liable to do whatever. But it was just a tremendous experience. And y'all know this. I mean, all the credit goes to Karen Greer. I mean, she's
Yeah.
the journalist. She knows that industry. And,
Mhm.
she just drugged me along on her coattails. And I am forever grateful.
Well, I mean, it when you say about when you think I think about people when they talk about raising a child and it takes a village, but for what we do as well, in this industry, it takes a village of people to get done what we all do,
Amen.
and
Yep.
we are so blessed as well to have the people that we have gotten in the last year join our show and be a part of what we do,
Mm-hmm.
and then that
Mm-hmm.
in turn allows us to share these stories, and so one of the stories that we're sharing tonight, is it's a story from 1998. Yeah. And
Correct.
yeah, it's a sad little story. I mean, they all are, obviously anytime we get together and we talk about these things, it's never a good thing that we're talking about, it's not,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but I think it's a great thing that we are able to get out here and do this, and that all together, working together, that we come together and we figure these things out, and things have happened. There have been things that have been solved because of talking about these things and
No
coming together.
question.
So,
Yeah.
so tonight we're talking about the case of Melissa Wolfenbarger. Am I saying that right? I think I'm saying it right.
Wolfenbarger. Uh-huh.
Wolfenbarger. Okay, Wolfenbarger. That's a heck of a mouthful to say.
It is a name now.
That is a name. That is a name. And she went missing. She was a young woman, 21 years old. She went missing in 1998. Her remains were found just a little bit later, but they weren't identified for decades. And there's a really interesting story about why her remains were finally identified.
Crazy.
But we're not going to talk about that specifically tonight. We're going to get into it just a tiny bit, but then we've got a really big announcement. So you guys want to stay tuned to the very, very
Okay.
end. But Sheryl, tell us a little bit about Melissa and who she
Okay.
was and her little bit of her background before we get into the case itself.
Melissa was 21 years old and the mother of two small children. And she came from a solid, loyal family. And it's one of those families where we might fight amongst ourselves, but don't come in here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They would defend each other without question. So even if her sister knew Melissa was dead wrong about something, she was going to support Melissa all the way through whatever the fight was. And
Mhm.
they loved each other and just had a great childhood. I mean, they took baton lessons and loved board games and made each other laugh and, stole each other's clothes every now and then. But even as
Right.
grown women, they worked together some at different restaurants and they supported each other and they, you know, loved each other's children. You know what I mean? So it was a
Mhm.
good, just solid. I mean, I can't even tell you the loyalty that's there. And it's still there because her
Mhm.
sister, Tina is the champion behind this case because I was
Right.
doing an event and I
Mhm.
had never heard about this case ever. And her mom, Norma, and Tina came to the event and walked up to me and said, "We, you got to help us." And their
Mhm.
story was so baffling. And I mean, I looked at her mom at one point and I was like, "What? Like, how do I not know this case? If you're telling me it happened literally in my backyard,
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
you can't tell them no because the case needs people. It needs people to look at it. It needs people to get mad about it. It needs people to say, look, we got to do something. So I did, obviously. And here's the deal about this case, y'all. So Melissa does go missing, but this was before cell phones were, readily available to everybody. She didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have a house phone. Her marriage was somewhat volatile, and they moved a lot. And, Melissa was one of those people, she might go 4 or 5 months without swinging by and seeing family because of different reasons in different situations. She had been arrested herself. Her husband had been arrested. She had small children. They didn't have a lot of money. So again, even though she was in downtown Atlanta, her mama lived in Henry County, which it's a pretty good trek out there. There's no buses out there. So if you don't have a car, you can't go anyway. So she would have to wait for somebody to come pick her up or hitch a ride with a friend or something like that. So it was difficult to manage that anyway. But her family came to kind of know her rhythm of it. And she would never miss a holiday. And that's critical for people to understand. So you may not hear from her May, June, July, August, but any of the major holidays or her mama's birthday, she's right there. So Christmas of 1998, she did not go home for Christmas, but she had even asked her mama for a very specific kind of heartwarming gift. And her mama had it for her, but she never came for it. And they were worried then. Her mama's birthday's in February. No phone call, no card, no nothing. She didn't come by. Well, her mama went to the Henry County police and said, my daughter's missing and y'all got to do something. Well, the first question they asked, where's your daughter live? Atlanta, not their jurisdiction. They then called Atlanta, and Atlanta said, she's a grown woman and she can disappear if she wants to. So unless you've got anything else to tell us, because her husband hadn't called here, nobody else has called here, we can ride by there. But if nobody's home, there's really nothing we can do. So Atlanta did a welfare check, but nobody was home, and there was nothing they could do. That's February. In April, a UPS driver is making deliveries on Avon Avenue. And on that stretch of road, there's probably 8 businesses up and down that whole road. It's a 2-lane road. Train tracks and woods are on one side, and the businesses all fall on the other side of the road. He sees a black trash bag that's ripped, and then right there in the middle of the street, sitting straight up looking at him, is a human skull.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
So he calls the police. They respond. The skull has had Clorox poured on it. The hair is cut real short. And they did a facial reconstruction. And when they did that, based on the remains that they had, it appeared to be a male. And that's where the case kind of sat for a little while.
Wow.
In about the middle of May, there's a county in Southwest Georgia, Telfair County. They call up and say, hey, we got a body down here in the ditch with no head. There may be some tie to y'all's case. So then the case heats up again. They go to Telfair County. The head and the neck area is not a match. Doesn't match at all.
Okay.
The case kind of goes cold again. Then come June, 5 more trash bags were found.
Oh
with
my.
arms and legs. And yes, that's when they were like, wait a minute. This has been a horrific homicide, but they've been right here the whole time. Okay.
Right.
The torso was never found, ever. So then they had to try to do different types of testing that they had in 1999. to try to figure out, without having the pelvic bone and some other things, if it was male or female. So basically, it was kind of undetermined, missing person. We're just going to leave it. We have no leads. We have no nothing. Now, they did process what they could, the trash bags and whatnot, but it just didn't result in too much. Okay. So fast forward again, 2003, Melissa is identified. 2003 now, she is finally identified through dental
So 4
records.
years. 4 years after she was found, they finally identified.
Correct.
Wow.
Correct. And the way that came about, there was another detective, Bruce Jordan from Fayette County, that was working another case, and he called just about everybody in the metro area and said, "Do you have any unidentified people?" And Atlanta said, "Yeah, we've got a couple, and here they are." Well, he looks at it and he sees Avon Avenue, and he was looking for Melissa Wolfenbarger, and he knows that Avon Avenue is just a couple of blocks from her house.
Right.
And it's literally yards from where her husband used to work at Action Glass. And so he said, "Y'all got to get these dental records." And they did, and it was her.
Oh, man.
So all this time they've thought that first it was a male, it wasn't her. Then it was, oh, it didn't match the neck, so it's not her. Then they get back her legs and her arms and some other things that's still not her until now. Like now they figure this out. Like, wow.
Well, now keep in mind, all they had was a skull. And for a lot
right.
of people, identifying a skull is difficult. I mean,
yes.
you may be a pathologist, but that doesn't make you a forensic pathologist,
sure.
Anthropologist, I would say. And you didn't have the pelvic bone, so you wouldn't have known it was female and childbearing quickly. So there were some identifying things that we didn't have at the time, or they didn't have at the time. And the person that was found in Telefair County, was a man. And so that was pretty logical to say, well, Atlanta's got a head and no body, and we got a body and no head. I mean, you should have looked at that. I mean, you would have been, derelict in your duty if you didn't do that. But again, it failed. It didn't match. So a lot of things were put into this. And, facial reconstruction is difficult. And again, with the Clorox and we're assuming the way the head was that other cars had hit it, there was some damage. So it was difficult to try to put that face back together. The hair being short, like real short, they just thought it was a man.
Total. And that's understandable.
It happened.
So
that's where we are now.
So that's where
what we're trying to do is say, okay.
Go ahead, Sheryl.
Yes. You're the loser?
Oh, no. You said to go back a little bit.
Well, yeah, I was going to go back a little bit, but you finish your thought real quick, and then we'll go back.
Nope.
Okay.
So what we're basically doing now is working it from the ground up again. So, you go ahead and you say, okay, let's use the anthropology that we have. Let's use geographical profile. Let's use, anything that might can give us a different twist on this thing, because you do not want to set out just with blinders on. And it's like I've told other people, because they're like, well, it's got to be whatever. Okay, again, one of the hardest lessons to learn in this business is knowing it and proving it are not the same thing. So I really caution people, it's great to think you know something, but call me when we can prove something. Because otherwise, we're just having the same conversation, right? So you just want to be real careful that we don't go ahead and paint this thing a certain way and miss something, because there are layers and layers and layers to this thing, and there are some twists and turns. But again, what always amazes me about some of these families, and I will say this about Melissa's family, I'm extraordinarily proud. And so it usually stuns me when people can be so open and so honest about the most gut-wrenching thing that ever happened to her. And
Yes.
so with Melissa, and y'all will get a chance to hear her sister and her mama. And when they talk to you the next time we get together in February, I think it's important that you listen to them almost like a detective would. What can I learn from them? No judgment. No, oh, I already know the ending. Oh, I bet this happened. Listen to what they're telling you. Because as a criminologist, when I listen to them, and then as a mama, when I listen to them, and then as somebody's daughter and sister, these stories, again, take on different meaning. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think your audience will get a glimpse into, some of the most fascinating aspects of what I get to do for a living. And I worked with a guy by the name of John Cross. And John gave me some advice when I was really young. And he said, Sheryl, you remember what I'm fixing to tell you. He said, your victim today will be your suspect tomorrow. And your suspect tomorrow will be your victim today. And that has come true over and over and over in my career. So I may respond to a shooting scene where I've got a gunshot victim that I'm helping, and I may help get him all the way through the trial. And then 5 years down the road, he shoots and kills somebody. It happens. The world keeps turning. and so you just got to take all the information, right?
Right. So, okay. So let's go back just a little bit. And what you were saying right there is something we've talked about time and time again, here and on the podcast, The Good Wives Guide to True Crime, because it was absolutely what we saw in the case of Gypsy and Nick and Dee Dee, because every single person involved in that case is both a victim and a perpetrator. No matter which way you toss it, any way you look at that case, it's victim, perpetrator. Is he a victim? No, wait, perpetrator. Wait, no, victim. So, so we dealt with that for years, dealing with that case.
And it makes you a villain pointing out the negatives to each person. But in the end, I mean, they had issues.
Sure. But everybody does. And the thing is, if you search anybody's background long enough, there's going to be an uncle or a cousin or a sibling, somebody that's made some choices you would not have made for them, but they made them. And then the whole family has to live with that. And that's just part of it. That is a reality. It's not a factor necessarily in the case, but it is a reality. And again, you're talking about a family that didn't hide anything. They didn't keep anything. The first night they came and met with me, they just flat said it. And I'm like, okay, groovy. I'm going to call y'all tomorrow because I can't.
You had to sleep on that some, huh?
Well, yeah, because, again, if this had come out a year after I'd been helping them, that might be a little suspect.
Right.
But it didn't. And they were just so genuine, and you can't help but like them. They, again, their honesty, their willingness to let people believe whatever people are going to believe. But the bottom line is what happened to Melissa Wolfenbarger, she did not deserve. Her children did not deserve.
Her children above everything else. That, their mother was taken from them.
Yep. Correct.
I mean, they are such innocent victims in all of this.
Hey guys, so I have my little grandson here. He's a little fussy, so I'm sorry if you guys hear him. This is my cute little boy Wyatt.
He's co-hosting.
I know, he's so adorable. But let's go back a little bit. So this story begins, with a teenage love affair. Melissa meets her husband Chris. They met in school. Now, was Chris in the same grade, or was he older or same age as her? I didn't get that part.
He's a little bit older.
That's what I thought. I kind of had that feeling.
Yeah, but they knew each other, and you know, you just, that
Right.
teenage love, it's a powerful,
Mhm.
powerful thing. But, her mama didn't really care for him right off the bat. And,
Right.
if people could just listen to their mama, but
It reminds
again,
me
you love who
it
you love.
reminds me of that Trisha Yearwood song, Walk Away Joe,
Uh-huh.
where she's basically telling
Yes.
her daughter, like, he's not good. And she's like, but mama, I gotta go. And he basically robs a store and leaves her, in a highway. And, that's just the tale of a walk away Joe, So that's what this kind
Yeah.
of reminds me of, because, she and he get together and they start getting in some trouble. He is kind of got that bad boy thing going for him. And then she, at 17, she gets married, and has a baby. And so,
Yeah.
in 1995 they have their first child. There's a second baby on the way pretty quickly after that, and they are living with his grandparents. Is that who they were living with, his grandparents, or
Right.
was it his parents?
Right.
His grandparents.
Grandparents.
Okay.
Yeah.
um
And then they have a
and then
little, duplex they let them live in,
mhm,
so everybody's trying to help them out a little bit,
mhm.
but neither side of the family's, extremely well off, but they're all willing to help them out, and they all watch the babies and, make sure that, everybody has what they need. And again, that's
Mhm.
why I'm saying, even though nobody had a sack full of money, they all took
Mhm.
care of each other. And I think
Sure.
that's pretty extraordinary.
Right.
Now, at some point in time, I guess maybe because they got in some trouble. I don't know. How does it happen that Chris's mom ends up with custody of these two children?
Well, the relationship starts to go south, and Chris is, you know, a little violent and has a tendency, to be somewhat abusive. Well, he gets arrested some, and then, Melissa gets arrested, I think, for shoplifting. And then
Mhm.
she tells the police on him, and he tells the police on her. And like the last
Right.
time her mom went to court with her, she even told the judge, Melissa did, that she was pregnant. And,
Right.
her mama said, I don't know if she was telling the judge that so the judge would go easy on her, or if it were true. But she did say it, in open court.
Mhm.
And it was
Right.
one of those things where she and Chris stopped being loyal to each other, but I think
Mhm.
there was still that powerful connection.
Yeah.
Um, and
Mhm.
some people in your audience know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've
Mhm.
got a love that burns that hot and that fast at 17, there really ain't no putting that out. And it
No.
may not be that either one of y'all are good for each other.
Mhm.
But when it's good, it's the best in the world. And when it ain't no good, it's the worst it can be.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's pretty much
Yeah.
what this relationship was.
Right.
Yeah, because
So
really good people can still be extremely toxic together.
absolutely. Absolutely.
No question.
And
And I think that's what
and
it was. There was,
right.
money trouble, and they had kids and they had
Mhm.
all this. So his
Right.
mama said, just sign them kids over to me. And if y'all are going to go in and out of jail and do what y'all do, they will have a stable place. So they
Mhm.
did that. They made the decision to let his mom, look after them. And again, it wasn't long after that Chris says that he saw Melissa walking down the street near their house. He picks her
Mhm.
up. They talk about stuff, and he drops her at the Lindbergh train station.
Mhm.
And nobody ever sees her again. Well, again, for the people in your audience, they're sophisticated enough. If you're the last person to see her, and you're the husband, and you've had a volatile situation, obviously somebody's got to look at you. And you don't ever report her missing. You don't ever call her family and say, where is she? She ain't been by to see the kids, and my mama needs some help taking care of them, or anything. Nothing.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
again, with all the trouble she might have had, she would have never walked away from her children.
Right.
Never. And,
Right.
why drop her at the train station? Why not take her where she's going? Why didn't you go with
Mhm.
her? Um,
Mhm.
why didn't you look
Mhm.
for her in a couple of hours when she didn't come back? She didn't have any clothes with her. She didn't have a phone. She didn't have any money. She didn't have any keys. She didn't have an
Right.
ID.
Why not call the family and say, did she make it to you?
Right.
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 Or wherever
I mean-
she was going.
I mean, that's
Oh.
just very odd.
You know, and then really, it's very odd. And it's one of those things. I mean, I was talking to Jim Clemente the other day, and he goes, you know, at the FBI, we call that a clue. And he made me laugh. But yeah, it's a clue. You know, it's a clue. And we weren't talking about this case. We were talking about another case. But when he said it, it just made me laugh. And then, you know, then you think, okay, well, you know, you might believe she's missing and you may be irritated that she didn't come back. So let's just say you even think she's having an affair and she's holed up with somebody. 1 or 2 days, maybe, but 4 months,
A week.
a year.
Yeah. A week.
I mean,
Yeah.
at what point do
Right.
you realize she's missing? And,
Yeah.
you know,
Especially with small
not call the
children.
police or her family. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
So not only did he not call the police or her family or his family or anybody, he didn't ask for a search party. He didn't talk to neighbors. He didn't talk to their friends. He didn't tell anybody she was missing. But he did pack up and move. So again, your wife is missing, may have a head injury. Maybe she doesn't know where she's at. Maybe she's wandering Atlanta, you know, with memory loss. But you're going to pack all your stuff up and leave just in case she finds her way back home. You ain't going to be there. That's odd.
Right.
And then when
Right.
he moved, the story is he was living under an assumed name. So she couldn't have found you if she wanted to. So
Wow.
everything he did, you know, when you look at pre and post behavior, again, I can't really move away from him yet, right?
Mhm.
But we don't have the physical evidence that we need. We don't have a witness.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things missing that would really help this case.
Sure. Sure.
That we, you know,
Right.
that's why they go
And
cold.
right. And I mean, we do have some things, you know, you know, her sister has said that there was a point where she showed up at work and she had a handprint around her neck and she was in tears, and then she left him. So, you know, again, like you said, the in, the out, that's classic domestic violence, you know, 101, battered woman, just in and out and in and out. You know, they leave them, they go back, they leave them, they go back until what happens generally is, you know, if that's the situation, it doesn't always end well. I mean, it's either they leave for good and they don't go back, or they go back and they don't get to leave, you know, and
They're
they
either
go out,
hospitalized or murdered.
or they're out. Yeah.
Well,
And I just want to thank
I mean,
all for a lot
again-
less for that wonderful support you gave us, guys. We sure appreciate that. Thank you very, very much for helping us out there. But yeah, so I mean, yeah, she's going back and forth. I guess she went and stayed with her sister for a little bit, and then, you know, she went back to him and she quit her job. He made her quit her job, and
Yep.
other people said that there was clear domestic violence going on. They heard it all the time. She was wearing long sleeves and long pants even during summer, and, you know, so classic. I mean, so if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck and it, you know, and quacks
It's
like a duck,
quacking.
it's a duck.
It's
you know?
quacking.
Right. And I'm not saying
Right.
that she's, you know, she, you know, a lot of these cases, it's never okay. But then again, I think a lot of times in some of these cases, it's a two-way street of, you know, she can do something and incite him, and then he gets angry, and then she leaves, and then she goes back, and it's this vicious circle. And if you
They're
don't stop that,
addicted.
yeah, and it's addictive on both sides. And if you don't stop that circle, nothing good is going to come from it, you know, nothing. So, and it's not long after this, you know, that she ends up gone. Like we said, you know, she moved back in with her parents in July. She had taken the kids, she moved back in, she was going through the court system. But about a month later, she leaves and goes back to him again. He convinces her to go back. He's in court and asks the judge, can he please talk to her alone? And ends up convincing her to go back to him. And this is where they hear about this third baby that was supposedly, you know, she's supposed to be pregnant. And
Right.
then, like you said,
And again, that's
and
a concern when there's no torso found.
right. Right. So there's no way to determine whether she actually was pregnant or not, they wouldn't know.
Right. But it's certainly curious. That's the only body part missing.
Right, right. So, like you said, the holidays come and go. She had even asked her mother for something very, very, a very dear gift, like you had mentioned earlier. She had asked her mother.
Mhm.
Her mom said, "Well, what would you like for Christmas?" And she said, "Well, I would like a picture of me and Papa." Um, and so her mom
Correct.
found one and picked it out, and she got it framed, and she wrapped it up for her. And no Melissa, no Melissa.
Correct.
And she's
Correct.
never
And
seen.
they had just lost him. So
Yeah.
it was a picture that she was going to cherish. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. So, and then and then like you said, it runs cold. Now there is a twist in this, and we kind of alluded
Hmm.
to this at the beginning. There's a lot of twists and turns that we've left out here, but we want to, we've given you a brief overview, just enough for you guys to get kind of interested in this. Now, Karen and Sheryl here have covered this on a brief podcast of their own. CSI Atlanta's podcast. Um, but the way I came about finding out about this story was, we were invited to do Crime Con House Arrest this year, as well as Sheryl and many of our friends were presenters and different things. And so as part of that, we were able to kind of pop around and see what everybody was doing. And this was one of the featured cases. And it's something that Cheryl's been doing for a long time. But this was the first time you had ever done it virtually, correct?
Correct.
So
And
you
I'll
want to
tell you
you
a
want
funny
to you
story.
want to tell people about what
Um,
it is?
yeah, but I'll tell y'all something funny because y'all will appreciate this because just about every night that y'all deal with me, there's some type of, I think it's a glitch in the system, but y'all think I don't know how to work technology. So when this was going, when this was going to happen, uh, Kevin with CrimeCon said, "Hey, I'm going to get a producer to fly to Atlanta and help you." And I was like,
Mhm.
"Sugar, I don't need a producer. I know this story. Me, Karen, we're professionals. Turn the camera on, you know." And he's like, "Well, we'll need we'll need your PowerPoint. We'll need some things that you have." And I'm like, "Okay." So I bring my laptop and I had a jump drive. And the first thing the lady asked me at the studio, she said, "Do you have such and such cord?" And I guess the look on my face, she knew, she knew that I was going to be no help to her. Now, this thing is going live. We're fixing to be hot in like 20 minutes. And the woman running the studio, she's like, "Oh my God." Well, the producer that Kevin had sent, honey, she goes to her briefcase. She starts pulling out all these different cords. She's like, "I got it." She's hooking my computer up. She's got, I don't know, 16 cords hanging out of that thing. I don't even know how she's done it. Next thing I know, my PowerPoint's up there, but it's way too big. Like you can only see like a third of it. Honey, she's having to download stuff, crop stuff. I don't know what she's doing. I swear to y'all, we are maybe five, four, three, and they point to me, and that PowerPoint is perfect. And I'm like, "Welcome to Wine and Crime, bitches." You know, because I mean, it was just that quick.
Love it.
And I look over at her and I just winked because I'm like, this would have never happened. I don't know what would
Right.
have happened if Kevin hadn't done that. So, you know,
Right. Right.
just know that. But anyway,
It happens to us all
the
the
I
time too, so it's not just you, trust me.
oh my gosh. Okay, so I do these things called Wine and Crime, and I started doing them in 2004. And
Mhm.
what we do is when I invite people for a small fee to come
Mhm.
to a location, and when they
Mhm.
get there they can bring a picnic basket with their own wine and food or whatever. And then some places we have, I provide the wine as a giveaway because I cannot sell, dispense, or pour because I'm a
Mhm.
nonprofit, but I can give away.
Mhm.
And we have our own wines, and I'll tell you all about that in a second. But when they
Right.
get there, I've got experts throughout the room at different tables, and I just drop the murder box right in front of it, and you literally have access to everything I have. The autopsies, the photographs, the reports, the witness statements, everything. And so you work it alongside these experts. So if you pull something out and you're like, wait a minute, I don't understand what petechiae is. The pathologist is right over there. The medical examiner is right there. Hey, I think so-and-so did it. The lead detective is sitting right there. So you get to rotate almost like speed dating, but it's speed solving a case because you've got about 4 hours and you can meet with, 5 to 10, different experts as much as you can rotate. And some people come and stay with the same expert all night. All they want to do is talk to a profiler, or all they want to do is talk to a weapons expert or blood splatter, whatever it is. And again, I mean, I can't brag on people enough, but I've never had any expert tell me no. They are more than welcome to come and meet with people and talk about the ways to move these cases forward. And I've had folks like Vince Velasquez that's on ATL Homicide. I've had Sean LaGrua. I've had Holly Hughes, Dwayne Thompson, Christine Menina, Dr. Laura Petler, Tricia Griffith, Chief Moody. I mean, I've had some significant people come and help us, and the families are usually there too. So I've had Beth Holloway, I've had Susan Levy, I've had Amber Hagerman's mama. I've had, again, people that go out of their way to say, you have access to me, you have access to the case file, you have access to these experts. What have we not thought of? Because I tell people, anybody can solve a cold case. Anybody can solve a crime. And just because we may have training or years doesn't mean you're not going to think of something we haven't thought of. Look at the Zodiac Code. I wasn't ever going to crack that thing, ever. But 3 civilians did. Well, rock on.
It was amazing too. Amazing.
Hell yeah.
Amazing. Well, I
Absolutely.
mean, the same thing can be said for the Golden State Killer. I mean, that went unsolved and unsolved and unsolved, and I think and they all say that if it had not been for Michelle McNamara and all of that, and Paul Haynes and Paul Holes and all of them working on that on their own time, on their own things, that would have never been solved. And that was a fluke, that was just. And so it's one of those things where you don't know what you know till you get to that point, and then it becomes so important. It's it's like we've talked about this before. It's the van in the wrong place. It's I heard a siren and I didn't know that that's what it was. I thought I heard a weird sound. I thought I saw a guy that looks suspicious standing outside of Shelley's window. All these different things. And when you think about the most famous one right now is the don't F with cats. Those people sat and looked at light switches for months. I don't think I even had the wherewithal to sit and look at white light switches for months. I'm sorry, I don't. But I admire them. I think what they did was amazing. And
my ADD would kick in. I would not be able to hang with that.
I watch these things and I try to watch
everybody.
Yes, it does. It takes, and like we said, it takes a village.
Different eyes see different things, and you just never know.
Here's what we're doing, guys. So like I said, the first time I saw this was at CrimeCon house arrest. None of us had ever dealt with CrimeCon in that kind of realm. That was a first for everyone. And I saw it, and I caught the tail end of you talking about this case in your virtual wine and crime, and I was like, oh my God, we can do this. This is something we can do, and we can do it now while this COVID pandemic is going on, because we were supposed to go out this last year and do a live tour. That was one of the things that we had a goal for 2020. Obviously that did not happen. But through all of that, we met Joseph Scott Morgan and Stephen David Lampley and all the wonderful people, and Dr. Laura Petler, and everybody that comes on here and gives us their time. So I started thinking of, but I want to do more. And what we're doing is, we're getting the cases out there, but I want to do something to give back to the people that support us in our viewership, as well, and give them an opportunity to really have some meaningful time with some of these people that we get to work with all the time, So I approached Sheryl and I said, hey, what if we were to do a virtual wine and crime. And she said, well, that's the first one I've ever done. So I don't know. How do you want to do it? You know, and Ty and I sat on the phone with her and we talked about a lot of different things, and, you know, and then kind of the holidays hit. And so we were like, well, let's wait until, you know, January, February to do this. And so we talked again, and I think we're really excited about this. So we are working on this. We don't have a specific date yet for you guys. And we haven't worked out all the specifics of exactly like what bottle, you know, are you going to get a bottle of wine? Do you order a bottle of wine? Do you do this? Do you that? We're working on it. I have some merchandise that's being made that's going to be exclusive just for this case. And then I did talk with Sheryl about doing a bonus to this. Now, y'all know my case, the case that I am absolutely 100% obsessed with and talk about all the time, is the Delphi case. And so I had talked with her about adding a bonus to this, you know, doing Melissa's case as the wine and crime, and then adding on a bonus of sitting and doing the Delphi case, because we have Joseph Scott Morgan, who is close with the family. I myself have been in contact with Libby's sister, you know, and so I wanted to add that on because I truly believe that one can be solved by something exactly like this, sitting and talking about, well, what about this? Well, what about that? Well, what about this? You know, and really
And
going
listen,
that case further in detail. Yes.
and one thing I will tell y'all during the wine and crime, I'll tell you what I did on the Delphi case, because it's something you need to hear about. It's wicked. Super cool.
Oh, see, gosh, she's she's dropping little Easter eggs. Love it. So we're going to cover this case in a wine and crime, guys. We will be announcing it here in the next, I would say, week or two here to get you guys, you know, and I'm sure it'll probably be towards the end of February that we'll actually put it together, because we really want to get together with some really good, you know, like Sheryl said, the pathologist and you know, the all the different people that can sit and you can talk with and ask these questions. And the way it worked at house arrest, I mean, it was really interesting because they would they would put stuff up on the screen, and then people would just send in question after question after question, and Sheryl would look at the person and say, okay, so and so says, did you look at this? You know, so and so said, have you thought of this? And it was amazing to watch. And there were things that the investigators said, oh wait, yeah, we should look at that. You know, there is something there. We're going to write that down. So you guys will have a chance to actually be a part of really looking at this case. Now, I mean, I can sit here and say I do believe we know, but you know,
right.
Go ahead.
But the really cool thing is there's no pressure that they have got to tell me something that night. If they're driving down the road 3 weeks from that event and think of something, reach out and tell me, and I will freaking try it.
Right.
I mean, it literally becomes our case.
Yeah. Well, I'm so excited about it. And if this goes well, guys, I mean, we will have more of these. That's what something.
Well, and y'all know I'm all about the wine, so it's all good.
Right, exactly. That's what I said. That's what I heard the first time. I was like, wait a minute. I mean, we always talk about true crime and wine, but like you're actually doing it, Sheryl? Oh, okay. Hey, I'm in.
I know. Listen, I've had different people. I've done whiskey and weapons and warrants, and I've done murder and mimosas, and I've done wine and crime. I've done different things, but we have our own wine, and I think that's where it's going to really come into play for folks. So the first signature bottle that we did was Melissa's. So what the wine is, Aspen Lane Winery has done this for us, and Melissa's beautiful picture is on the front of the wine, and the back depicts her case. So what we want people to do is host a wine and crime, or either bring that bottle to ours, however y'all figure out we're going to do it. But if you know somebody that would love a bottle of it, we get a little bit of money off every bottle, and that's how we do the testing and the forensic, you know, experts, and get things to private labs. So that's every single dime goes to solving a case.
Oh, wow. Stella already said she will buy a case.
Right.
That's so awesome.
I'm with Stella. I'm thinking that way too. I'm already planning ahead on, let's see, what can I come up with for this area to join in with that? And
And we're going to do some
Right.
giveaways and all kinds of different stuff. So this is going to be a really cool event, guys. I'm very excited about it. I've been trying to think of a way to do something like this with some of the experts. I've asked them, about teaching classes. Stella had asked about that at one point, and
Mhm.
I definitely think that's something that we're looking at. We're trying to bring you guys some different things. We're stuck. We're all stuck in the house. It's not a lot of fun. It's been a lot of stress for everybody, and so we want to not only just bring things to you guys to hear about, but ways for you guys to be involved in these things, and get to be with the people that we get to have on our dial phones, all the time. So we're really excited about this. So Sheryl, I do thank you for coming on tonight and talking a little bit about Melissa's case. We will be updating you
Absolutely.
guys probably within the next week or so about when we're going to actually do the one in crime. So okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you,
And
everybody, so much. And this will mean the world to her family. I will talk to
right.
her sister as soon as I hang up.
Well, in the 2003, you guys have kind of you've hit around it a little bit of different things that you think, there were dental records, there were this, there was that, but there's a really big thing that you're missing it that happened in 2003, and that is something that Sheryl will be talking about, and it would have never, if it had not been for this case would have never even hit anyone's radar. And that is, that there was another case attached to the family in a way. And it began to create them to look at this case as well. So I'm not going to go any more
Absolutely.
into that. That's as much as I want to tease out about it.
And that whole
Well,
thing
y'all
made
just
me
come to
wait,
wine
what?
crime.
What?
I know. I said,
Y'all,
I was asking
you know
Sheryl
what?
about it.
We ain't talked about
Uh,
we ain't talked
I,
about nearly
It's
everything.
so funny because I was messaging Sheryl today and I was like, wait a minute. So her what or what was a what?
Well,
And she
then
goes,
you would message me, and I'm like, oh my God.
and then I was like, well, wait a minute. The what? Who did what? And she was like, Cheryl's like, you're gonna give it all away. We're not even gonna have anything to talk about. I said, no, I'm not. I'm gonna tell them that we're gonna talk about this at the Wine and Crime, and then they're all gonna come to the Wine and Crime. So
Yep.
but anyway, guys, I really do appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight. Thanks for those of you that did go ahead and donate. We we really appreciate that. We are on the backs of kindness right now of our viewers. That keeps us going, and it keeps, and with this Wine and Crime, that helps. Sheryl is the director of the Cold Case Research Institute, and it keeps them going. It keeps CSI Atlanta going, so they can win some more Emmys. And solve some more cases, and
Yep.
it gets families some much needed look at their cases. So we're actually working
Sheryl,
on
send me the Emmy, and I'll take it down to the beach and get some selfies with it and send it back to you.
right
Right on. Right on.
Well, I can take it on a cross country tour,
Right.
so but we're going to be doing another
Listen,
case with
that's
Sheryl.
happening.
we're going to be doing another case coming up with Sheryl too, and that's another case that's coming, kind of like this as well. It's the case of Danny Stowe, and so we've been working with his son and another investigator that he has on the case, and Sheryl and Karen. So we're going to be working a lot with them in this next year, working on some of these cases, because it's really a passion since we launched our second, we launched a brand new true crime podcast called Gone Cold with Todd Matthews and the Good Wives. And Todd is the former director of Name Us, and he also is the owner of the Doe Network. And so it's all dedicated to missing and unsolved cases. And so I love him to death. He's such a good guy. We just released our second episode, and no, maybe our third. Our third just came out because we just did Boy in the Box. Our third episode came out, and so that is something that was a passion for going into 2021, was to really work on some of these cases that have gone missing, unsolved for way too long. So we were going to hear a lot more about these types of cases from us this year. So, but anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Sheryl, thank you for being here with us. Brande, thank you for giving up another Friday night. She's going to be here with me on Fridays, and Mondays are going to be, my daughter Emily is going to be joining me. right now, we just lost Colleen as a host. She is really focusing on her family life right now. As you know, she's pregnant, and she's really taking some time to do that. But what we're looking for right now, guys, if you have not heard me talk about this, we are auditioning and looking for another co-host. So if you have ever thought of doing something like what I do or Brande does, doing the podcast or something on here, please, by all means, send us a brief video talking about why you'd like to do this. If you have any type of experience, to goodwivesdish@gmail.com. And in this new year, I think that we are really going to work together with Mac here on our Love Wins campaign, and really getting that off the ground, because that was something that was really important to us last year in starting that. So, alrighty, guys.
Awesome.
Well, have a
y'all,
wonderful.
thank you so much.
You are welcome, Sheryl, and thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of your weekend, y'all, and we'll see you again. Bye.